Welcome to Nurses with Voices, the podcast where we amplify the voices of nurses everywhere. I'm your host, Dr. Lendra James, DNP RN, and I am thrilled to go on this podcast journey with you. Through this podcast, we aim to educate, empower, and inspire nurses at every stage of their careers. Whether you're a novice nurse navigating the challenges of bedside care, an experienced clinician looking to advance in your field, or dreaming of becoming a nurse entrepreneur, Nurses with Voices is here for you. Together, we'll explore the triumphs, struggles, and countless opportunities that come with being a nurse. So tune in, subscribe, and let your voice be heard, because here at Nurses with Voices, every nurse has a story worth sharing, and every nurse voice deserves to be amplified. Welcome back to another episode of Nurses with Voices. I'm your host, Dr. Lendra James, DNP RN. And today we have the immense pleasure of welcoming a truly inspiring leader in the nursing community, Dr. Danielle McCamey. Dr. McCamey she's a distinguished mentor, educator, and founder of the DNPs of Color, an organization really dedicated to promoting diversity and inclusion within the nursing profession. And recently, she was honored by the American Association of Critical Care Nurses for her outstanding contribution to the field. Additionally, Dr. McCamey has developed a remarkable DNP mentorship program supporting aspiring nurse leaders in achieving their academic and professional goals. I should say nurse leaders, DNPs. So please welcome Dr. McCamey as we delve into her journey, her passion for mentorship, and her vision for the future of nursing. So thank you for joining us, Doc. We are excited to learn from your experiences and your insights, and just to hear more about the incredible work that you're doing to support and uplift the nursing community. So please share with us your journey in nursing and what led you to found DNPs of Color. So let's start there.
Yeah, sure. So my nursing journey was inspired by my mom. She did home health nursing. So she would take me along with her to her clients' homes. And I was just so inspired about her ability to roll up in somebody's home, tell them what to do, and then them feel better afterwards. So I was just so amazed by that. And it set the foundation for my interest in nursing. And then I started my career in the recovery room and have stayed in acute and critical care ever since. So I transitioned from the recovery room to the medical ICU. And then while in MICU, I went back for my acute care NP and ended up transitioning to surgical critical care. So I've been in surgical critical care ever since. I don't think I will ever go back to medical ICU. Surgical critical care, it's clean. There's a certain set of diagnoses that you roll with, and most of the time patients actually get better and go home. So from there, I was enjoying being a master's prepared acute care nurse practitioner, operating at the top of my scope, throwing in lines, saving lives, taking names. Didn't think about going back to school. Frankly, I felt like having additional schooling didn't add any value to my practice because I was operating at the top of my scope. I was mentoring. I served as a unit resource leader, teacher, mentor. So I was pretty content where I was. And it wasn't until like a random night shift, I was me and one of my mentors, it was like probably one of the worst night shifts ever. And we just sat on the side, just beat down from the shift. He was actually going back to get his PhD. And so he was like, you need to go back to get your doctorate, whether it be PhD or DNP, like you need to go back because there's tremendous value. And running around here in the ICU for 20 plus years, it ain't it. So you need to start thinking about your strategy for your future as you evolve in your nursing practice. And I was just like, I guess. So I started dabbling around trying to figure out if I wanted to do DNP PhD, because that's always the $1 million question, like which track do you go to? And after my research, I was like, you know what, I want to stay in clinical practice. I'm a clinician, hardcore. DNP sounds like it's aligned with what my goals are. And then I applied to a couple of schools, got into one, but then they changed their program. And I was like, you know what, I don't want to go to this program. So I put it in the back burner. And then the opportunity came up again, and I was like, you know what, let me just apply and see what happens. So I ended up getting into a DNP program. And once I got in, I was like, oh man, what am I going to do? So I roll up in there the first day, and I'm like, I'm the only Black woman up in here. I said, here we go. So I was like, maybe this will be different because it's doctoral studies and people, choose to go to get their doctorate and it's going to be great. Far from it. I felt so alone. I felt so isolated. And my lived experience, I brought my lived experience with me, and it didn't really resonate when I would share, like, I live in a multi-generational home, product of a single parent family. I work 2 jobs. Some of my money goes back to support my mom and like my, family members that are living with us. And, so I'm working late nights, early mornings, and I'm tired. But it really showed me how different I was. And I knew I needed to find a community of support, but couldn't find it in the current nursing organizations. And so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just make my own. So threw together a Facebook group, and here we are now. That was back in 2015, 2016.
Wow, look at that. That is so profound. And it's amazing because you're not alone in that, right? Like, I'm
Yes.
sure that there have been other nurses of color who felt the same way. And the fact
Mm-hmm.
that, you took it to the next level in creating that foundation for
Mm-hmm.
DNPs like
Mm-hmm.
myself to
Mm-hmm.
be a part of something.
Mm-hmm.
And it matters. And your work has really it's shown and it's proving to really matter. And that kind of leads me into my congratulations on being honored for the American Association of Critical Care Nursing's award. So, what does this recognition mean to you? And like,
Oh,
how does it impact your work moving forward?
oh my gosh, like, you know how we roll, like, if something needs to be done, we're gonna do it. If we gotta boss up, we're gonna boss up. Like, and I think that's just from my growing up is, if you see something that needs to be done, you do it. And so I've been in this spirit of just doing because I've identified this gap in nursing. There's no other professional organization that's focused on DNP prepared nurses specifically. And then you add on that a couple of us are melanated. So there's nothing. And if you look at the latest data, like DNP prepared nurses outnumber PhD prepared nurses tremendously, but a lot of the structure is focused on the development and support of PhD nurses. There's nothing really for us. And so, I've just been in that mission centered space and not really pausing to see the impact, the ripple effect of, me wanting that space. And then because of our group has a lot of overlapping shared experiences that really strengthens the bond and the connection that is palpable in this group. And to be selected for the Visionary Leader Pioneering Spirit Award, it caused me to pause and really look at all the work that I've done, and for others to see it and recognize it. Because a lot of times our work isn't readily recognized, because people may not understand, like, why are you creating this group? Aren't you dividing? Why are you being so divisive? And it's like, no, we're literally saving these nurses to stay in the profession because we're building a community that's psychologically safe and that validates their existence, how they show up. No one's checking for my fro. No one's checking because you light skin. Like, nobody's checking for that. It's like we're here to support each other, and we understand the mission that we have to be successful, not only for our communities, our ancestors, but mostly for our patients. So to stand on stage, like, I felt like a movie star, okay? Because it was my first major nursing award, and NTI is lit. Like, shout out to AACN for curating an experience at their conference. So the opening session, they call it Super Session, and I had never gone before. And it was literally 6,000 nurses in the auditorium. People literally running in when they opened up the doors to get a front row seat. Like, I had a video recorder. I was like, this is because when we see somebody running,
Right.
we like. So that was my first thought. I was like, so why they running in here? Like, what's going on out there?
Right, right,
And they're like,
right.
oh yes, they're running because they're trying to get a seat. Now let me tell you, baby, I was looking like, where's the next exit? Because we in Denver. So, anyways, I get on stage and it is like I've never been before so that many people in my career. And I was like, oh, this is real deal.
Right.
This is real deal.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, it's pretty dope.
I'm so happy for you. I mean, it really speaks to, and it's inspiring, right? If you have, I mean, I'm sure you do, is starting to set in how you've inspired so many and how you continue to be inspiring. And I'm sure that run action was, was
Ma'am,
a piece
listen.
of it. Oh, I love it. And I love a lot of the work that you're doing too, because when you talk about impact and you talk about, and let me just back up a little bit. When you talk about how the question of, why are you creating division? I mean, that's not it at all. And it just, I can't even, I can't understand how when we start to do something that's actually pulling us together and pulling us up, it it's deemed division,
That's
as
it.
opposed to when we're in a situation and we're not accepted.
Ooh,
That's not it at all,
you
right?
better preach.
So I can so appreciate the work that you're doing, and no, this is not division. This is pulling us up. This is being we're pulling up communities that that has been suppressed for
Yeah.
so long.
Yeah.
And even within the program, within the DNP of Color community, I should say, you have a mentorship program, a manuscript mentorship program that
Mhm.
you develop, and it's an incredible resource. So why don't you talk a little bit about that, about
Mhm.
the program and how it supports DNP students?
Definitely. So we surveyed our community last year, the year before, and we found that 60% of us had not published their DMP projects within a year of graduating. And when we look at the abstracts that come through for our conference, they are projects that are literally focused on communities of color, marginalized, historically racialized communities, with some innovative solutions to close some of these health inequity gaps. And I'm like, we need to be publishing this. So a lot of people said that on that survey, they hadn't published because they weren't mentored to, or encouraged to, or taught that that was the next step, or they got rejected, so they gave up, or they didn't feel like that their work was worthy to be published. I said, do you see some of this stuff out here that people be putting out here that's published?
Right.
Like,
That's a
no.
great point. Some of the articles that I'm reading, and I have to say I'm guilty of it too. And
Mhm.
it's in my reasons for not publishing is, and I actually reached out to Dr. Fontenot about this, and I spoke with him.
Yeah.
My reasons for not publishing is just because like life just started lifing,
Life
right?
be
And
life.
yeah, and it was really just that. And then I turned around and I was like, because the conversation between he and I was more about, I was like, it's probably too late, right? And he was like, no, it
No.
actually isn't. And I was like, oh, all right. So here you go. So here's an off camera conversation that you and I need to have, right? So that
Yeah.
so that I can publish my manuscript. But to your point, I do look at it now and said, like, it's probably too late now. Like that was like 2022, So
Mhm.
and the fact that there's programs out there, again, nurses need to know about this, especially DNP
Absolutely.
students they need to know about all the great
Mhm.
work that they
Mhm.
did, because trust me, what the projects that we had to do, to
A
get
lot of work.
through, it was a lot of work, and they should be published, and
It should be
there should
published.
be some accolades for it. So
Mhm,
I, again, I commend you once again for
mhm,
what you're doing.
mhm.
And I know there has to be challenges, right? So what challenges would you say that you faced in promoting the diversity and inclusion within the nursing profession, and
Mhm.
how have you overcome them?
Man, I think just by name alone, I get a lot of those questions about why DNPs of color, why not DNPs of all colors? And sometimes it's frustrating because it's like, I have made a commitment to be of service through leadership and also a commitment to educate people on the value of us having this community because we don't have any other communities because all the other professional organizations are predominantly white. And with that comes us having to conform to their standards of professionalism, which is sometimes some days you don't want to roll up in there and be like, hi, yes, everything's great, I'm just doing well. Sometimes you want to be like, hey, let's go, and not be judged that you don't have the level of skill or expertise because you coming in like, we ready, we,
Be
and
right.
so,
I love it.
um, so I have taken a stance of educating those that ask why isn't it DMPs of all colors, but it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And then also just the thing that's also just so heart-wrenching is that everybody that comes through our organization has had some traumatic story associated with them getting their DNP. No one that I've come in contact with has had a smooth sailing, supportive, welcoming, easy, like, it's always come at a fight, whether it's they're fighting to try to do a project that they want or trying to get the basic support that they need to be successful, or people are just flat out just racist.
Mm, mm.
So carrying that weight of listening to people's stories, but I'm glad that our community is, someone described it like it's like a big hug. Like when I come to the conference or a meeting or connect with other docs, it's like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. But we still are getting past that trauma and it's just frustrating. So that's why I'm always just hard pressed to create things to try to buffer or equip folks so that they can strategize and monopolize on having the knowledge that typically is gatekept by the predominant professionals, so that we can try to mitigate some of the traumatic experiences. So that's the hard part. But organization wise, trying to find where the money reside. Like we're a nonprofit organization and trying to get people to support the mission and vision with funds, and also just any other support that we might need to be successful is very difficult. So those are kind of the challenges.
Right. I can see that, and it's unfortunate. And before I comment on that, I just want to go back to what you said about how when we show up into certain rooms, how we have to sometimes behave a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And I was recently at an event, and I was speaking with the gentleman, and it was a young lady there who she's in school for her PhD,
Mm-hmm.
and he was talking about how we have to behave, or we have to be able to play the game, and she goes, "Well, what does that mean?" Right? And and he was a gentleman of color, however, he was giving advice, and I got what he was saying, especially working in leadership. I got what he was saying. However, that becomes tiring, and there's a new generation of nurses coming out here. You
Listen,
have millennials, you have Gen Zs,
yep,
and they're not really trying to play the game,
they're not
and
doing that.
they're not. So it's like you have to be very. It's great that there's a community. I mean, there's communities out there, especially with your community, that you're being accepted for who you are, because these days of having to walk in and having to be someone, you're not putting on a performance almost. And that was what I said to her. I said, it's putting on a performance. We shouldn't have to feel that way. And
Mhm.
and she was a young lady, and she was like, well, what does that mean? Like,
Oh,
You
oh,
know, and I
baby.
laugh because it's like, yeah, like and you kind of are, but to your point, you get tired of that.
Mhm.
You want to be able to be accepted and be in a community of who you are. Hence why, you've launched one of the main reasons why you've launched your community, right? This DNP
Mhm.
of Color community, because we want people to feel accepted and not
Yep,
just in certain rooms, right?
that
Because
part.
we don't validate it. And there should be more sponsorships
Mhm.
for what you're doing. And
Mhm.
it just being, and I guess that's why you have memberships, right? So there's
Mhm.
membership fees, but then there's other events that you want
Mhm.
to be able to have. And
Mhm.
why don't you can you share with the listeners, your upcoming events? Because I know there's some
Oh, yeah.
events coming up with the DNPs of
Definitely. We
Color,
got some
right?
events popping. So the My DNP Manuscript Mentorship Program is open for mentees through the 24th. I don't know when this is airing, but we'll be hosting a fall cohort. So if you don't make it for this cohort, then we'll have another one starting in December. So that's an opportunity. And then our annual conference is going to be in Philly at the Franklin Institute, October 17th through the 20th. It's going to be lit. Like, ask anyone that's ever been to our conferences. Like, people hands down have said multiple times in multiple ways, this is the best conference that they ever gone to. So we kick it off with a mix and mingle with DJ and hors d'oeuvres and a bar. So that's usually a fun time. And then that Friday and Saturday is our educational days, and then we have a Saturday evening gala. This year is going to be a sneaker gala,
Nice.
and we
Those
yes,
those are popular now.
yes, yes, and
I
we have
love
our
it.
own custom Air Force Ones. So for those that are sneakerheads or not sneakerheads, we do have our own custom Air Force Ones, which is going to be really exciting. So
You have to make
definitely,
sure you give me the link to that so I can put that in the
yes.
show notes for the sneakers.
Yes,
I love it. Yeah.
definitely. So really, really excited about that. And then we have an upcoming June men's awareness symposium coming up on June 20th on utilizing barbershop culture for primary care, which is going to be really, really awesome. And then we have our virtual graduation that's coming up in June 22nd as well. We always like to amplify and recognize the newly graduate DNPs. We do it every June and every December to say people's names and their project. People find tremendous value in being recognized amongst their community, which is it hits different. So we're really, really excited about that.
Awesome. Awesome. So tell me just one last question I want to know. As a mentor and a leader, like what advice do you have for nurses who are looking to advance their careers and make just really a meaningful impact in their communities?
Yeah, I tell people hands down, and I'm sure people can get tired of hearing me say this, but you need four mentors. It used to be three. I just recently added four because I heard one of my mentors, Dr. Roberta Waite, speak. And so she gave me the fourth mentor that you need to have. But the first one is someone that is going to keep track of you like a parent, where they understand your mission, vision, your goals, and they understand your humanity. And they can give you that tough love and they can give you that real love. So that's the parent mentor. And then the second mentor is like your career strategist, someone that can help unlock some of the game secrets and help you think about your next move so that you can align things up so that you can fulfill what you want to be when you are ready to grow up. And then the third mentor is your hashtag goals mentor, someone that could be famous or someone that you admire their ripple effect of their work and influence in the world. So you align yourself with that type of energy. And then most recently is the fourth mentor is the historical mentor, someone that has passed on, whose work has that you can take to add to create your own work. So for me, it's W.B. Du Bois, it's Bell Hooks. So thinking about folks that have passed on that you can still tap on their talent and their expertise and impact.
I love it. Oh my gosh, I love it. And to your point, that's something that I learned as well. Mentorship is it's just like invaluable. Like there's so much
Mhm.
value in mentorship. And
Mhm.
for me, being a woman of color, and you know what, I don't even know if I could say it's because of being a woman of color, but I never really had mentorship. And it
Yeah.
wasn't until like I kind of transitioned from, well, you don't transition from being a nurse, but it wasn't until I really started being a business owner, right? When
Mm.
I kind of tapped into being an entrepreneur and really
Mm.
started seeking mentorship is
Mhm.
when because in nursing, don't get me wrong, especially when I got into leadership, and I say this all the time. It's like you said, people probably start getting tired of me saying this, but especially when I got into leadership, that was when I realized and recognized that I needed mentorship, right?
Yes.
Because there were so many things, there were so many
Yes.
nuances that I had to
Yes.
navigate. And had I had a mentor,
Mhm.
it would have been, probably a little more smooth sailing for me.
Yep. Exactly.
Right. So going into starting my business,
Mm.
I sought after mentorship, and it changed my life. It
Yep.
changed. It was such a game changer. And to
Mhm.
your point, and I remember one of the first mentors that I had said to me, she's like, you need more than one mentor. She's like, your mentor cannot be your everything. And she said, just
Correct.
like when you have, a husband or a wife, or, like your partner is not your everything. Your
Yeah.
children cannot be your,
Yep.
so, and it made sense.
Yep.
And to your point, having, I've invested in myself tremendously, but it was such a game changer. And this is what I tell people. Mentorship is huge. It's so
Yep.
empowering. So I just, I thank you so much for what you're doing for the community. It is truly an honor to have you on today.
Thank
Tell
you.
me, is there anything else that you'd like to share, that you want the community to know, or how can they contact you? If there's a DNP out there listening who wants to be a part of the community, how can they contact you? And I'll make sure I'll put everything in the show notes too.
Yes, I always tell people hit me up. So I'm on all the social media platforms, and same with DNPs of Color. So if you Google DNPs of Color, we will come up. But I think it's tremendous value in finding your community that can help pour into you, because life is hard. Nursing is hard, but it doesn't have to be when you have a community that will be rooting for you, that validates you, and that loves upon you. So definitely look us up, connect with me. I always love connecting with people, hearing their stories, and seeing what good work or good trouble we can get into together.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, there you have it. Thank you so much for coming on today, Doc. There you have it. So until next time, make sure that you stay educated, stay empowered, and stay inspired.